The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels.
FBI, DEA, and local law enforcement have just delivered one of the most biggest drug raid ever carried out on Venezuelan organized crime inside U.S. borders. After months of joint surveillance and intelligence collection, the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, and Texas Department of Public Safety executed a coordinated raid on a fortified nightclub complex near San Pedro Avenue in San Antonio, a location federal agents describe as a fully functional criminal embassy for the Venezuelan syndicate Tren de Aragua.
Federal officials say the hours-long operation was part of a new security task force. Homeland Security tells us it's connected to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
The operation, codenamed Operation Nightfall, began at 2 a.m. when tactical teams surrounded the structure, cutting power and sealing exits before breaching the main entrance under a cloud of smoke and flashbangs. Inside, agents encountered chaos, crowds scattering, gunfire echoing through hallways, and cartel enforcers attempting to destroy digital devices and cash ledgers. By sunrise, more than 140 undocumented immigrants were in custody, many confirmed as members or associates of Tren de Aragua, one of Latin America's most violent criminal organizations.
The Supreme Court just cleared the way for Trump to deport illegals even faster. The High Court ruled that Trump can use the Alien Enemies Act to send Venezuelan gangbangers to a mega prison in El Salvador.
Officials said the nightclub, hidden behind mirrored glass and neon signage, wasn't just a front for entertainment. It was a command center for trafficking, money laundering, and extortion operating directly under the nose of law enforcement. Investigators say this takedown didn't start with a nightclub. It started with a network. For nearly a year, agents had been tracking suspicious cash movements between Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio tied to Venezuelan nationals entering the U.S. illegally through the southern border. Federal analysts connected those movements to the Tren de Aragua, a gang born inside Venezuela's Tacuarón prison, known for fusing cartel-style trafficking with paramilitary violence. Originally a prison-based extortion crew, the organization expanded across South America, turning into a transnational crime syndicate responsible for human trafficking, migrant exploitation, narcotics smuggling, and targeted killings. Intelligence briefings obtained by Homeland Security describe the group as a hybrid of cartel and militia, violent, structured, and economically self-sustaining. Once inside the U.S., cells embedded themselves within migrant shelters, construction hubs, and Latin nightlife venues, using legitimate businesses to conceal their illicit operations. The San Antonio Club, located less than a mile from the American Replacement Center, ARC, became their Texas stronghold. Surveillance teams watched high-value targets arrive nightly in tinted SUVs, carrying duffel bags of cash and narcotics. Local witnesses described hearing automatic gunfire on weekends, followed by convoys of vehicles disappearing into nearby side streets. When the order to strike finally came down, federal teams moved with precision. More than 200 agents from the FBI, HSI, ICE, and DPS assembled at staging grounds around San Antonio. Air support from Customs and Border Protection, CBP, circled overhead as ground units converged on the location. At 2:03 a.m., a diversionary explosion tore open the club's side wall while main entry teams breached through the front, seizing suspects attempting to flee through hidden passages. Inside, authorities found makeshift holding rooms, stacks of counterfeit IDs, and a cache of weapons, including rifles, handguns, and submachine guns. Digital forensics teams secured computers and phones believed to contain encrypted communications with Venezuelan command figures operating abroad. The FBI later confirmed that this site served as a logistical and recruitment hub, where migrants were promised work or housing, but instead coerced into trafficking networks run by Tren de Aragua enforcers. This wasn't just a raid, one senior DHS agent said. It was the removal of an international crime base operating in plain sight. Officials described Sunday morning's operation as a wake-up call for cities across the South. What happened in San Antonio wasn't an isolated infiltration. It was evidence of how deeply foreign syndicates are embedding inside American infrastructure. The FBI called the strike a direct blow to the Venezuelan underworld's U.S. expansion, while Homeland Security declared that Tren de Aragua now ranks among the top-tier transnational criminal threats to the United States federal leaders, say this marks the beginning of a nationwide crackdown targeting foreign gang sanctuaries built within American cities, and the end of their illusion of safety. The San Antonio raid wasn't an overnight response. It was the culmination of a months-long federal investigation quietly unfolding under the radar agents from the FBI's Transnational Organized Crime Division, and Homeland Security's Human Trafficking Task Force began tracking Tren de Aragua's U.S. footprint in early 2024, after a string of violent robberies and kidnappings across Texas shared a disturbing signature. Venezuelan nationals working in coordinated crews, armed with automatic rifles, and communicating in coded Spanish slang used exclusively by the gang. Surveillance units traced these patterns to multiple stash houses operating along Interstate 35, but it was the nightclub on San Pedro Avenue that drew their attention. Located near one of the busiest migration corridors in the state, the club acted as both a recruitment center and financial hub for Tren de Aragua's U.S. branch. Federal analysts learned that traffickers funneled migrant laborers through the site, using intimidation and debt bondage to force victims into sex work and drug distribution. By the time the operation's blueprint was finalized, the building had been reinforced with metal barricades, cameras, and an internal security team. A fortress disguised as nightlife, the takedown itself unfolded like a battlefield operation. Just before 2 a.m., teams from FBI SWAT, ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, ERO, and the Texas Department of Public Safety's Special Response Unit positioned at staging points within a 1-mile perimeter, snipers took overwatch on nearby rooftops while CBP helicopters circled overhead, their floodlights cutting through the darkness. When the breach order came, explosive entry charges ripped open 2 side doors as agents poured inside under heavy resistance. Smoke filled the air as panicked clubgoers rushed toward exits, some screaming, others armed. Tactical officers moved floor to floor, detaining suspects and pulling civilians to safety. In total, over 550 individuals were located inside. 140 were confirmed undocumented, and more than 30 had direct ties to Tren de Aragua's Texas cell. Agents recovered 12 firearms, including modified AR-15s, and intercepted multiple encrypted phones believed to hold financial ledgers and communication logs with overseas commanders. What investigators uncovered after securing the building confirmed the gang's reach. Hidden beneath the nightclub's main stage was a concealed basement used as a counting room where stacks of U.S. currency were sorted, shrink-wrapped, and marked with Venezuelan initials for transport. A series of laptops connected to foreign servers showed digital transfers moving through Chinese crypto exchanges before landing in Colombian and Panamanian shell accounts. A laundering circuit typical of Tren de Aragua's South American network agents also located a cache of fake identification cards, immigration papers, and sex trafficking contracts written in Spanish and Portuguese. Several rescued women told agents they were lured across the border under false promises of employment, only to be trapped inside the compound and forced to pay protection taxes to gang overseers. They ran it like a business. Every dollar, every person accounted for, one HSI investigator said. Federal prosecutors now believe the San Antonio hub was one node in a larger nationwide grid stretching from Miami to Phoenix. Evidence recovered from phones and laptops links the Texas branch to Tren de Aragua facilitators operating through Latin American migrant routes, coordinating with Mexican cartels for logistics and protection. Officials say the gang's expansion into the U.S. represents the globalization of Venezuela's criminal underworld. Unlike traditional cartels that focus solely on drugs, Tren de Aragua traffics everything: people, weapons, stolen goods, narcotics, and fear. It sustains itself through chaos, embedding within migrant communities and using humanitarian channels as camouflage. The FBI's Joint Task Force calls this operation the first major disruption of that model. "We've been watching them build a shadow economy under our nose," said one federal agent. Tonight, that economy collapsed. The raid in San Antonio is now being described by federal officials as a defining moment in the U.S. campaign against foreign criminal infiltration. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the strike was part of a coordinated initiative under Operation Nightfall, a nationwide directive focused on dismantling transnational crime networks with direct ties to terrorism, trafficking, and cartel economies. Senior officials confirmed that the takedown was one of multiple simultaneous actions across the South, with smaller raids conducted in Houston, Miami, and Phoenix within hours of the San Antonio assault. The timing, they say, was deliberate. A synchronized hit designed to collapse the gang's logistics, communication, and cash channels in a single night inside the command room at FBI San Antonio. Digital maps lit up with active pings as federal teams tracked suspects fleeing the city's outer limits. By dawn, more than a dozen secondary locations had been searched, yielding narcotics, forged passports, and financial records linking the Texas cell to operations stretching as far north as New Jersey. This wasn't a nightclub raid, said one Homeland Security official. It was a precision strike against a foreign army operating under civilian disguise. To understand the magnitude of this takedown, investigators point to Tren de Aragua's global footprint. Born out of Venezuela's overcrowded Tocaron prison, the group evolved from a local extortion ring into a multinational enterprise spanning at least 8 countries, including Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico, and now the United States. It operates like a hybrid between a cartel and a militia, running human smuggling routes, controlling migrant shelters, and coordinating drug shipments with Mexican cartels. Intelligence agencies describe it as a decentralized criminal empire, sustained by fear, corruption, and diaspora infiltration. Unlike traditional cartels, Tren de Aragua recruits directly from migrant flows, embedding gang operatives among asylum seekers and moving them through established humanitarian corridors. This allows them to bypass checkpoints and blend into legitimate migration systems. Once inside the U.S., they rebuild quickly, securing fake identification, opening shell businesses, and laundering money through local real estate markets. Federal analysts say the San Antonio raid confirms that the gang's American experiment has been active for over a year, using Texas as a strategic hub for recruitment, trafficking, and interstate movement. For the residents of San Antonio's North Side, the raid ended months of unease. Locals had long complained about suspicious activity at the club, the late-night gunfire, the blacked-out windows, the foreign cars with temporary plates. Business owners nearby said they feared retaliation if they spoke out. What agents uncovered inside confirmed their worst fears. A fortified trafficking center operating in plain sight, where victims were held, exploited, and recycled through fake employment programs. Several rescued individuals are now receiving medical care and federal protection. Homeland Security officials said many had been promised housing and jobs upon arrival, only to be forced into criminal labor under threat of violence. These people weren't criminals, said one ICE agent. They were prisoners of a gang pretending to be their saviors. As news of the takedown spread, political tension erupted across state lines. Immigration activists accused federal agencies of overreach, while Texas officials praised the raid as a critical strike against foreign organized crime. Inside Washington, however, the message from law enforcement was unified. This is only the beginning. The Department of Justice confirmed that Operation Nightfall will expand nationwide, with upcoming actions in states hosting high concentrations of undocumented migrants from Venezuela and Central America. A federal spokesperson described the mission as a campaign to reclaim American neighborhoods from international crime. Officials say more arrests are expected, and intelligence gathered from the San Antonio raid is already generating new leads in Florida and California. Tren de Aragua thought they could turn migration routes into criminal corridors, one senior FBI analyst said, but the U.S. just slammed that door shut. By the end of the week, all seized properties, vehicles, and cash will be processed under federal forfeiture laws, and deportation proceedings for non-U.S. offenders have already begun. For federal agencies, the operation marks a new era of collaboration between ICE, HSI, and the FBI, a model for how to fight hybrid foreign gangs embedded inside domestic infrastructure. This is the playbook for the next decade, said one Homeland Security official. These organizations cross borders without fear, but now they'll learn borders work both ways. Tren de Aragua is not a cartel. It's not a gang. It's a contagion, spreading through nations one border at a time. And in San Antonio, that contagion just met its final end.